Jumbo, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack Returns to Africa. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to officially welcome you to Tsavo's Kanderi swamp, where it's here. You might not have the best chance, but it's a pretty good, rare chance that you can meet up with one of Africa's most iconic bird species. The flamingo. Yes, the bird that we're probably well familiar with for being somewhat silly and goofy, and probably appearing more on lawn ornaments than anywhere else, right? But there's more to these birds than just looking pretty. In fact, so hang tight. We're gonna take a look into the life of the flamingo. But before we begin, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button, check out my Facebook page, and if you have a question about animals or an animal request in the future, just send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in the description below. But if you're ready, let's party. Now, in terms of their evolution and their family, I really will say I found this one to be very challenging to figure out. So, it's thought that the flamingo was said to have originated probably around 30 million years ago, and were said to have diverged from ancient shorebird species thanks to their ability to become a filter-feeding bird, where they're able to find all their food. In fact, it's also believed that through genetics, that the grebe bird seems to be one of their closest cousins. Now, while it's kind of hard for us to exactly tell, and while fossils haven't always been the most plentiful, one fossil of flamingo eggs were discovered back in 1976 that dated back 30 million years ago. Now, the flamingo in Africa actually comes in two kinds: the greater flamingo, Phoenicopterus roseus, and the lesser flamingo, Phoeniconius minor. Now, for today's episode, we're just going to focus mostly on Phoenicopterus roseus, or the greater flamingo, the largest in the world. Now, the greater flamingo does have a pretty good wide range of habitat as well as distribution throughout the world. Now, mostly you would find it here in Africa, but as you can also see on this map, there's a good number of them as in parts of southern Europe, as well as some parts in the Middle East, but not quite the most common sight. Speaking of common sight, you may think that you want to probably plan your vacation to go look for flamingos here at Tsavo National Park. I would like to recommend that you don't, because while they will utilize marshlands and shallow rivers and ponds and lakes, this is not really the most ideal place that they're going to be looking for. If you're that avid bird watcher that wants to go look for flamingos, you really need to go towards more the southern part, like near the Masai Mara Game Reserve down in southern Kenya, as well as up to Africa's Great Rift Valley, where you can find soda lakes, as these waters provide not just enough food for the birds, but also protection, as the pH in the water, I can tell you, it is really strong. It does not really go well for other animals. Even human skin can have some serious burns. But for flamingos, they're incredibly adapted to this world, and it's here that they use these soda lakes to not only look for food, but also look for extensive mud flats so that they can begin to construct their mound-like nests, which, one, not only protects the egg from being scorched to a fried egg if it was laid on the ground, but also when flooding occurs, the water can't wash the egg away. That's right. I've said only one egg, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, the males have got to do a little courtship ritual. Basically, like other pretty looking birds, like peacocks and others that I won't really care to mention too much right now, they have to strut their stuff. They gotta look really awesome to the girls. They gotta do a special complicated dance where they're actually doing it in synchronized formation. From head movements to wing flaps everything to make them look like they're the hottest bird in town. But you know what? Even with all that courtship rituals and displays, scientists have actually discovered, to amazement, that male flamingos and females seem to prefer older individuals, as they are more likely to be able to have better experience in terms of how to raise a chick successfully. So they take turns nesting, sitting on top of the egg and incubating, and as time passes, as the day gets closer for that egg to hatch, mom and dad actually sing to this baby, and thus, when it does hatch, he or she will be able to recognize their mom or dad's song and recognize them among a flock of thousands. Now, another thing I forgot to mention, by the time the hatchling itself is only 4 to 7 days old, they're ready to leave the nest and travel with their parents and others to better feeding grounds. So, flamingos are fairly known as, I believe they're known as communal feeders, meaning they basically will feed together where there's safety in numbers, and where if one finds, you're likely to find more food if you work together in a group, because one is going to find a rich spot to be able to feed on, and others can take advantage. But they're not really just eating shrimp as it's popularly described. They're really they're going for like this creature called brine shrimp, which is the super small shrimp species. They're also looking for small mollusks, fish larvae, insect larvae, even blue-green algae that they're able to get by using their own feet to be able to actually kick up dirt and other muck from below the water surface and feed on whatever is available. Now, in popular culture, like I said earlier, we've known them as lawn ornaments, but there's much more to that than just being a popular piece for your property. In East Africa, the Maasai people, they regard these birds as a symbol of hope, of beauty, grace, and even harmony, seeing them as a form of of their wonderful natural heritage. Now let's talk about some of the wild things. Now, you probably have seen the popular flamingo standing on one leg, and you think that it's bending its knee. That's not its knee. That's actually its ankle. Can you imagine yourself being able to do that? Obviously, if we tried to do that, we'd probably break it and have to go to the hospital. Another pretty interesting thing that has been noted by biologists or ornithologists, that's people who study birds, flamingos actually produce milk. Now, this isn't the kind of milk that you drink from the store or that mammals produce. It's a special kind it's called crop milk, which is concentrated that gives this white flamingo in time its beautiful characteristic pink coloration over time. Now, despite their popularity, they are, thankfully, while they are not considered to be an endangered species, flamingos are facing hardships from drought, human development, and pollution, which has sadly reduced not only their successful breeding efforts, but it can also limit their food supply, and as a result, it might be a little difficult for them to recover especially if the population crashes big time. Thankfully, though, we're all, of course, working together to help protect these beautiful birds from just becoming memorials on someone's lawn and keeping them around for the next 100, or better yet, 1,000 years. Conservation, of course, has education programs, areas being protected to keep their lands and homes safe, and of course, even managing misguided tourism a little bit so that the birds aren't affected too badly by tourists who come to see them. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have for flamingos. Be sure to join me next week as we look into the life of the Nile monitor lizard. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.